century ago. Since that time, 380 chapters have been chartered, primarily in independent schools like Webb, which received its charter in 1953. Each chapter may elect not more than 10% of the junior class and not more than 20% of the senior class. Today I'm pleased to announce and call forward 7 new members from the class of 2018 and 5 new members from the class of 2019. The new senior members will be joining 7 of their classmates who are elected in their junior year. Would the 7 returning members please come up to the stage as I call your name? Maya Krychek, Lucy Mitchell is not here this morning, Johnny O, Sonia Patel, Kelty Schroyer, Lucas Weissman, is not here today, and Henry Joe. Please be seated. I would now like to call forward the new members. Elected this year from the senior class, Jones Constantine Allison. You get swag. Elizabeth Vassar Bigham. Clarice Mirabella Kaiser. Sophia Kabasovic. Theo Prince Lee. Grace Angelica Lynch. And Jada McKenzie McMillan. Elected this year from the junior class are Maggie Selena Leon. Shuyi Alice Lynn. Jean-Key Scarlett Leo. William Alexander Revis. And finally, Haotian Tommy Joe. Neil Barrett, faculty member of the Webb chapter, will now explain the society's motto.
The Society's motto is comprised of 3 words, which each member should hold as personal goals and should endeavor to encourage the society at large. Arete, Dike, Ime. They are the Greek words for justice, honor, and excellence. Justice includes the concept of what is suitable, appropriate, and just. Honor incorporates the concepts of dignity and true worth, as well as honor. Excellence is sought in the spheres of scholarship and morals. It is hoped before induction that these words will continue to be your hallmarks. It is a pleasure to welcome you into the Cum Laude Society.
Our speaker today definitely is a cum laude member also, and definitely represents justice, honor, and excellence. Swapna Reddy is co-founder and director of the Asylum Seeker Advocacy Project, ASAP, a nonprofit that brings rapid, remote, legal aid and community support to refugee families in moments of crisis, including mass detention and raids. Since its founding, ASAP has prevented the imminent deportation of more than 350 refugees in over 25 states, providing community education to thousands of refugee mothers, and mobilized more than 500 volunteers around the country to carry out this work. Her work has been featured by numerous sources, including the New York Times, Time Magazine, and the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. Swapna is a 2004 graduate of the Webb School. She has a bachelor's degree in computer science and mathematics from Harvard University and a law degree from Yale Law School. Prior to ASAP, she worked in a variety of areas, including civil rights, artificial intelligence, and developmental economics. Please join me. Swapna Reddy.
Hi everyone. Congratulations to you all on this big honor, and congrats to everyone in the audience who's working their hardest, both in school and in other ways. It's an honor to be here. I actually haven't been here since my younger brother, who's in the back, graduated in 2006, so it's really wonderful to see how campus has changed and to see how the student body has gotten even more diverse and accomplished since I was a student here. As Professor just said, I graduated in 2004, so it's been a while. Anyhow, I just wanted to tell you guys a little bit about my trajectory since I graduated. I certainly didn't think I would be someone who would come back to speak at high school, and I think that's probably true for everyone here, that all of you probably can't predict where you're going to be in 10 or more years, and any one of you could also, I think, be coming back to speak, which is something I would not have expected. And to also talk a little bit about how the Cum Laude Society's motto relates to lessons I've learned along the way. So after I graduated here, I moved to Massachusetts. I'd never lived outside of Tennessee, and it was very different. And it was pretty honestly a little stressful to go to a school like Harvard. I expected to be very unprepared, and I think it took me a while to realize it, but I was surprised at how much Webb actually does prepare us. No matter what environment we end up in next, it's actually a big luxury and a really wonderful opportunity to be here. And some of the teachers here have ended up being the best teachers I've ever had, even though I've gone to schools that one might stereotype to have some of the best education in the world. I can still say, for instance, that Ms. Truitt is, having majored in math at Harvard, perhaps the best math teacher I've ever had. So you all are pretty lucky to be here, and I hope that I know members of the Cum Laude Society have taken that to heart and are really striving academically, and that will pay off. So I was a quantitative person in undergrad, and I thought that's what I was going to do, and I left school and I worked in artificial intelligence for a while, and at some point I realized personally that I just like working with people more than, even if I like math as a subject, I like working with people more. And so I shifted gears, and I ended up working for about 5 years in between college and law school, and by the end had realized law was a field that was more fulfilling for me personally. And so I went to law school, and during law school I had an opportunity to travel down to the U.S.-Mexico border and volunteer in a detention center. It was it still is the nation's largest immigration detention center. It was built to hold about 2,400 women and children at once, all of whom are seeking asylum, who kind of escaped sexual violence, murder of relatives, and pretty grim things, and are now being held in detention, trying to fight for their cases. The average age of kids in that detention center is about 6 years old, so it's a pretty sad situation to see a lot of really young kids in prison. And I went down there to volunteer for a week. While I was down there, I had the good luck to meet a woman who was detained there who was being forced to go to trial that week. Her name is Suni. She continues to speak out and doesn't request anonymity. She wants people to know what she had to go through with hopes that fewer people will have to go through what she did if she talks about it. And so we had the good luck to meet a woman named Suni who was being forced to go to trial. And she told us she'd been there for over 5 months, that during that time, a different family had been forced to go to trial every week, and they had all lost because they didn't have access to lawyers or legal assistance, and that's kind of what she was expecting would happen to her. And knowing that the success rate for these cases was about 1 or 2%, and not having very much time to prepare, we decided, while we're here, we might as well try to represent this person at trial. It can't be worse than 1% success rate, so let's give it a shot. And so we had a few days, and we worked together in a team. It was some other law students and me and a professor from Columbia that I happened to meet in the detention center. And she won her case at the end of the week with representation. And whereas most people, I think, having won a case after spending 5 months in prison would just celebrate the fact that they got to leave with their 7-year-old kid and never look back. She looked at us and said, it's pretty arbitrary that you came to leave my trial, but there's going to be another family that has to go to trial every week after this. And what can you do to try to do the same thing for them that you did for me? And she was right. we had other plans. We all were going to different jobs. I had an internship in Chicago that summer. Other people were going to Japan and Miami, and it wasn't very convenient to keep representing people at the U.S.-Mexico border in Texas, but we took to heart what she said, and we decided to start trying to come up with ways to keep representing the families even though we would be far away. And that's kind of how the nonprofit that I work for was formed. It was formed to figure out creative ways to bring legal counsel to people who are in really difficult places. Unlike, the criminal justice system, you might think everyone has access to a lawyer. So what is the problem? In the immigration system, there is no right to free counsel. If you can't afford one, if you can't find one, then you have to represent yourself. And when you represent yourself, you still have to go against an attorney. So the average hearing that happens in immigration court is someone who can't speak English going against a trained lawyer who's an English speaker. And obviously, those are some bad odds. No matter what profession you're in, a professional will probably do a little better than someone with no training in the field. So we decided to take her words to heart and to try to represent the families who got forced to go to trial from then on. And that was May 2015. So from then on, we were able to cobble together ways to represent every family that got forced to go to trial in that detention center. And all of them were able to win their case. And it was a big shift because I think there had been a narrative of, look at these families, they're getting held here, they're all not able to establish that they applied for refugee status applies to them, so they must be economic migrants or something else. Two, the government can pick any family at random, force them to go to trial. They'll represent them without screening for their case, and they're able to win and show that they're refugees. And it started to be kind of a narrative shift, and media started to cover the fact that actually it looks like there are all these refugee families who are being held in detention and they're winning their trials eventually, so why are we holding them in detention for so long in the meantime? And at some point, the government stopped forcing families to go to trial in that detention center and did start to release the families before that into communities around the U.S. And by that point, I was still a law student this whole time, so it's a big part-time project, and by that point, we had built kind of a system. We had over 100 volunteers. They were expecting to prepare for these 1 or 2 trials a week. And so we asked ourselves, where else are there families who don't have access to lawyers strictly because of where they are geographically? And so where can we apply this system? And having gone to school here and grown up I grew up in Murfreesboro, I was, pretty aware of the fact that there are some places that are a lot better resourced than others, where, if you're in Manhattan, there might be 50 different nonprofits that provide free legal services to immigrants, but when you're in Belle Bethel, Tennessee, there might be a lot of talent, but there isn't a legal aid office downtown. And so we started to think about representing people in some of those other areas as well. So as was mentioned before, where they are, just according to how much they need access to legal assistance, not needing them to be kind of close by or conveniently located. So that's all very different than the work I thought I would be doing. I think when I graduated from high school, I thought maybe I would end up getting a math or computer science PhD or something. So none of the, maybe it wasn't that ambitious actually. And I thought I would just do something with numbers, and I ended up doing something very different, and I don't think that's uncommon. I think that it's hard to plan. I think the world changes. I think we will change, and so, I think the first thing I would say about the cum laude model, or motto, is that excellence is a great thing to strive for across the board, because you never really know which of the skills that you're working on right now will end up being the critical skills for you. I certainly did not think that I would end up in a reading and writing intensive profession. I always loved to read, but it just wasn't what I expected, and I'm glad and lucky that I had some of the teachers I had, and I took their classes as seriously as I could, because those skills have turned out to be really invaluable. And excellence can mean a lot of things. It can mean, being good at the law. My brother Naveen this year is, I don't totally understand what he does, to be honest, but he studies neuroscience, and there's a very different meaning of what excellence means in that field. And so just don't count out a skill as not being worth learning, because you might be surprised at its value later on. Honor, I think another thing that I've been surprised to learn since I graduate is how small the world is. The way that you treat others, your values, they'll come back either to haunt you or to positively, based on the fact that what goes around really does come around. That when you're thinking about professions, when you're going to college, treating someone nicely or with respect, or doing things in an honorable way really can pay off in ways that you would never expect later. It might be that you help someone out, you're patient with someone, and you explain how to learn something to them, and then 5 years later they're in a position to hire you. You really don't know. And so I think there's some value to being honorable in and of itself, because it's just good to be a good person, but you might also be surprised at how it can help you as well to be an honorable person. And the last thing I'll say is about justice, which is just that no matter what you believe, no matter what your views are, you probably think that there are a lot of problems in the world today with the way things are going in one direction or the other. And just don't think that you're not the one who can fix the problem. So that doesn't mean go out there and try to fix everything today at the middle of high school and forget about your classes and things like that. But it does mean that you shouldn't count yourself out, and that if you see a problem, if you see some unfairness in the world, you might actually be the person who can fix the problem. I know for our nonprofit, there is no other organization in the country that can represent immigrant families regardless of where they're located in the U.S., and I certainly wouldn't have thought at the beginning, like, I'm the one who can solve that problem, but that's turned out to be true working with others, and I think that's probably true for all of you, that there is some issue that you see that you probably could solve better than anyone else, or that because you're willing to try, you'll end up making an impact. So that's all I really wanted to say for today, but thank you all so much for having me. Congratulations to you all for your induction today.